Hello witchy people, welcome to another HedgeWitch view of baneful herbs, and today I choose the yew tree. So not a herb, it's a plant. It's a big woody plant, but still. Sorry, I've got the dog trying to get attention down here and the cat trying to get attention from over there. So in England it's known as the graveyard tree because they do often grow in and around graveyards. Now this may have been, you've got to bear in mind that the trees tended to be there before the churchyards and the graveyards, and this is because they were thought of as sacred sites. So when the Romans came and invaded Britain, they quite often had religious services, church services if you like, but religious services under the shade of yew trees, hoping that this would encourage the local pagan population to get involved. It's like I said, they were there before the churches, so that they were considered for most of the time to be a sacred place before churches were built. Now the yew tree is said to be a tree with venom and poison, and that was by Bartholomeus Anglicus. So in his encyclopedia of the properties of all things in the mid-1240s, so very, very, very many years ago, Alfred Lord Tennyson wrote a poem about yew trees, how the roots of the trees go down into the graves and entangle with the bones. And in fact, in 1984, we'll say 1990, we've had quite a few storms throughout Britain. And in the village of Southbourne, in one of these big storms, a yew tree was blown over, and you could see all the bones, human bones, from graves coming up within the roots of the tree as it was pulled up. So yeah, they kind of entangle. I can't remember what Tennyson wrote. Let's have a quick look, see if I can find. Part of what he wrote is, "Thy fibres net the dreamless head, thy roots are wrapped about the bones." That was what Tennyson wrote. Now I've got to try and get the book back from my bookshelf behind me. So it's a very, very slow growing evergreen tree that it's very hard to date. So these trees tend to be hundreds upon hundreds, if not sometimes thousands of years old, but they are very, very hard to date because the dense wood sometimes doesn't have rings in it, or not visible rings like most trees do. I mean, it does have rings, but some of the rings are very hard to decipher, so you can't really tell how old the tree is. They grow in temperate regions, temperate forests. I say forest, they don't necessarily grow in forests these days because obviously they're singularly found in churchyards quite often. Throughout Europe. Hello, Coco. What are you doing? Are you going to jump down off the table? Come on then, because you're going to drop my coffee. We've had this a lot. This is only the fourth time I've tried to record this, and she's been attention seeking. Yeah, what? Okay, happy now? Okay, Northwest Africa, Middle Eastern parts of Asia. Now it has needle-like leaves, so it has needles rather than anything else, and this beautiful, stunning red fruit, and it can grow to over 70 foot high. It's just like a lot of yew trees are actually pruned in England. I think in America they do it as well. They prune them back so they become like hedges rather than huge trees, but if left to grow they can grow to over 70 feet tall. If you go to the Hampton Court Palace Maze, where the yew is such a strong and vigorous tree, most of the hedging in the Hampton Court Palace Maze is now yew, because they cut it. It's very high hedges. They're not like little low hedges. It's very high hedges, but that is mostly yew. Now, apart from the actual flesh of the berries, everything on the tree is poisonous. But the actual flesh of the berries, now the seed inside, incredibly poisonous. I'm not too sure about the rind of the fruit, if you like. But the actual flesh isn't poisonous, but how you're going to get the flesh away from everything else, you know, not going to happen. So best avoided in that. Because the seeds are slightly sweet to the taste, so I've been told, I've never tried them myself, they are a hazard to livestock, children and pets. So that's something you should be careful of. Right, so even though we have this incredibly toxic plant, and you know, it is, like I said, because the sweet tasting seeds, that it is a bit of a hazard. In the 1960s, a lot of researchers from the National Cancer Institute discovered that yew extract was extremely good. It's extremely potent against tumours, especially ovarian, breast cancer and lung cancer, secondary lung cancer especially. So if you've ever known someone who's taken Toxel, I think it is, and paclitaxel for lung cancer, ovarian cancer or breast cancer, you have the yew tree to thank for these life-saving drugs. So historically, as I said, the Romans, you know, kind of made these usable, but they were important anyway. The Romans sort of noticed how important they were to the local pagans and used that to their advantage. It was the preferred wood for making longbows because it is so strong, but it has that bend in it. To make longbows, it was very good for that. It was suggested that you were originally planted on sacred sites to deter animals from trampling them. As you know, since Neolithic times, we stopped being hunter-gatherers as a people and became farmers, basically. But yew was planted, because obviously it's quite spiky and spiny, to stop animals from trampling over sacred ground. And because the yew is poisonous, obviously, if they ate it, they would die and hopefully learn from that. Ancient Celts, obviously, loved it, were said to choose to take their own lives by yew poisoning rather than concede to being overpowered by an enemy. So if an enemy came in and took power, they would rather die than be ruled by an enemy, and they chose yew as their preferred poison. So they're sacred to many heathen and druidic traditions and paths, and it's one of the 5 sacred trees of Irish mythology, known as the Tree of Ross. Popular in Yule traditions, obviously. Yew can be made into these beautiful wreaths. And you make a yew wreath and you bring it indoors, and you do not burn it. You keep it up and it will dry beautifully, and you don't burn it until Imbolc. So round about February 2nd is when you burn it. And when you burn that about, it's very good for cleansing ceremonies. That's what you cleanse the house. Now, you do have male and female yews. Now, the female yew has associations with the planets Saturn and Jupiter, and obviously the goddess Hecate. The differences between the male and the female trees is that the male produces these small, almost like fir cone-like fruits, if you like, these little fir cones, whereas the female produces the berries, which obviously birds love, so it's wonderful for birds and some wildlife, but mostly birds. So So yew is considered to be one of the fairy plants, and of course it is associated with witches and the craft. Also used during Yule, it's kind of like an appropriate choice because it's associated with death but rebirth. And the winter solstice is that cusp between the seasons of life and death. Magical purposes. Now that includes divination, astral travel, journeying, and communication between realms, especially of course the realm of the dead. For bringing forth spirits, you burn yew. Be careful. Once again. Now, hedge witches. Hedge witches do something slightly different. You burn yew to bring forth spirits of the dead, and you trap them inside the smoke. That's how you bring forth the dead, and they're trapped. Now you can either read messages within the smoke formations, or you can perform quite a simple spell to release the dead and communicate with them directly. And you learn of their secrets that way. So you can read the smoke and what the spirits are putting into the smoke, or let the spirits out. Most hedge witches, as far as I know, prefer to read the smoke. Although we don't like trapping spirits, it's sometimes it's an easier way of doing things. Okay, it's not a practice I recommend unless you know exactly what you're doing. You always do it in an open area, a safe area. It's hard to say don't do it alone because obviously many witches are solitary. And I've heard that you should never practice hedge witchery alone. Well, yeah, you should. That's the way you want to do it. That's the way you do it. The wood's also really, because it's considered such a sacred wood, it's used for making divination tools. Obviously, the communication here between different realms. It's really good, and it's been used for making divination tools for all sorts of different paths and crafts. So ogham sticks, runes, frames for scrying mirrors. That was another thing that it was used for quite a lot. Crystal ball holders, as you held the crystal ball. And of course spirit boards, what most people call Ouija boards. Yew is excellent for that. It is not used for making anything that you drink from or eat off, so no goblets, no plates, no bowls, no spoons, nothing like that. There was a time when they found out that alcohol stored in yew barrels, the alcohol would soak up the poison of the yew and the wine became poisonous. So there we go. That's a simple introduction to a baneful plant. Trees are plants, you know, they're just bigger and woodier than normal plants. Yeah, so good for communication with the dead. Like I said, druids, heathens, and hedge witches really do love you. We love you. That's it. That's my hedge witch view. Hedge witch. I did it again. That's my hedge witch. I'm just going to call myself a witch from now on. Hi, I'm a witch. That's my hedge witch view on baneful plants, the yew tree. Like I said, quite quick and not too in-depth, but I hope you enjoyed that. And I will be back very soon with another one. I think the next one will be foxglove, one of my favourite plants. And hopefully I will see you back then. Thank you for watching, witchy people, and bye for now.